Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Patreon-sponsored review time again, and we're in the middle of our Patreon-sponsored extravaganza. I sold a bunch of extra review slots at the end of last year, and we need to prioritize getting through them all, so here we are. Fortunately, we're doing something that's a continuation of some past reviews. More JoJo's Bizarre Adventure! So those unfamiliar with the franchise are probably wondering, wait, how can the story continue? The title character is dead, the villain is dead, everything got wrapped up nicely. Well, first of all, Dio was a vampire, so we could probably find some way to handwave that. And secondly, that hasn't stopped TV shows before. Hell, remember when we talked about Blake 7 years ago? Blake left after the second season out of 4, and it still was named after him. But anyway, the actual way we can continue is through legacy. The first part of the story, Phantom Blood, ended with JoJo's pregnant wife Irina being rescued, meaning we can have Jonathan's descendants take over the story for a bit. This brings us to part 2 of JoJo, called Battle Tendency, though this is still season 1 of the show, so we're continuing our numbering in the title. So let's dig into episodes 10 to 12 of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and see how much wackier it can get.
Atop the fourth wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. What's with these awkward subjects? What's all this art so rubbish? To anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he is a man, punch, sporadically a grouch. Linkara, he has his own spaceship, but he's always on his couch. Linkara. A universe in flux, Linkara. This comic sucks, Linkara.
We begin our first episode of the 3 we're looking at today. New York's JoJo. Meanwhile, Delaware's JoJo continues to wait for his call to action. Yamcha, you son of a bitch! No, it's our old pal Speedwagon, now much older and apparently having gotten rich in the oil trade. Not bad for somebody who he met trying to mug people in a back alley. He meets again with Strayzo, who according to Speedwagon hasn't aged a day, though not really, unless he used a really good hair dye and moisturizing cream in Phantom Blood. It's been 49 years since Dio and Jonathan died on the boat, 1938 to be specific, and Strayzo has become the new master to succeed Ton Petty, after, of course, a bloody civil war against his former clan, the Heartbreakers. The narrator explains that Speedwagon's business has located an interesting archaeological find in Mexico. No, he's actually discovered a structure that contains more of the stone masks, like the one that turned Dio into a vampire. I'm betting one turns people into werewolves, another into mummies. We cut to New York, where a pickpocket named Smokey Brown, yes, I know he's named after Smokey Robinson and James Brown, but real subtle naming the black character that, Mr. Araki. He's also such a good pickpocket that he's able to steal this British tourist's wallet out of his hand. Hell, the frame doesn't even move when he does it. Yeah, I'm guessing something went wrong with my capturing when I got this episode from Amazon. Unless it legitimately went down like this in the animation, which... what? Smokey runs down an alley, right into a pair of cops who start beating the crap out of him, then demanding a weekly bribe. The theft victim intervenes. I made sure to leave all my identification in there, so he always remembered who gave it to him. The cops try to threaten him, and our hero... well, I'll let Mr. T explain.
Then I take my fist and put my initials on your brain.
The other cop pulls a gun, but our hero is undeterred. When he pulls the trigger on his gun, the guy focuses Haman energy through a bottle of Coke in his hand so that the cap shoots off with enough force to completely smash and cut off the cop's finger. However, he realizes that his temper has gotten the better of him, and his grandmother, Irina, is going to be mad at him, only because she's more of a Pepsi fan. Our hero, who flees with Smokey, is named Joseph, and as indicated, is the grandson of Jonathan Joestar. Though he admits he doesn't know how he was able to make the Coke bottle do that, it's just something he's been able to do his whole life. I'd like to teach the world to sing, then shoot off bottle caps. We also learn that unfortunately, Joseph's father died as a pilot in World War I. His mom also died, but since her name doesn't start with Joe, we don't give a crap about her. Back in Mexico, they point out a humanoid figure carved into a pillar. Except, as Speedwagon explains, he's not carved in. That's an actual living person attached to it. Speedwagon has summoned Strayzo here not to investigate all this, but rather to destroy it with his Haman energy. Strayzo inquires about Joseph, knowing that he has access to Haman energy, and we have a flashback to when Joseph rescued Speedwagon from plane hijackers when he was 13. Believe it or not, the comic that he's reading isn't necessarily an anachronism, since comic books go back to at least 1890. Mind you, the advertisement on the back of Baoo there looks like a reference to the comedy spy show Get Smart, so maybe this is a comic book that's been sent back in time. Or it's a reference to an actual comic ad from the time that I just don't recognize, and I'm only willing to do so much research for an unimportant detail in an anime about proper breathing techniques allowing you to shoot bottle caps with the speed and power of a cannonball. He dismisses the hijackers because he's just trying to read his comic, but they angrily throw him into Speedwagon. And he gets pissed.
お前ら飛行機を乗っ取ったからには墜落するのも覚悟しての行動なんだろうな。
There is logic in what he says.
He uses his Haman instinctively to knock out the pilot, rip out a chair, and use that to cushion their fall as they leap out of the plane, allowing the hijackers to die in the crash. Out of the flashback, though, is where we get the real twist. Strayzo murders his students and informs Speedwagon that he intends to murder him, too. After wounding Speedwagon, he reveals that as he trained with Haman, he still felt the ravages of age. He admits that during the battle with Dio, he secretly admired his vampiric immortality, and now that he has access to the stone masks in these ruins, he intends to use them. In turn, he'll murder Irina and Joseph, since they're the only other ones who know about the abilities of the masks.
二人を抹殺した後、私はゆっくりとディオ以上に石仮面の謎を極められる。
You thought nobody could be a bigger douchebag than Dio, but it is I, Strayzo! Putting Speedwagon's blood on the mask, it activates and we cut away to New York again. Before Joseph can beat up the guy, Irina arrives and tells him to knock it off.
タクシーですよ、エリナおばあちゃん。
And I was, negotiating with the cab driver for a better fare. In the cab, Joseph implies that maybe his grandmother has a thing for Speedwagon, given how long she's been a widow, but she makes it clear by hitting him with her umbrella how she feels about that insinuation. As part of Smokey's narration, we learn that the other baby that Irina and Jonathan rescued from the boat when he died was actually a girl who ended up marrying her son. Okay, but did Irina raise the girl as her child too? Because that'd be kind of weird and quasi-incestuous. Yes, not biologically related, but if they're raised together as siblings their whole lives, it's still iffy. She supposedly died from disease. The three go to a restaurant where this fine-looking gentleman objects to Smokey's presence in the place. It's never stated to be racism, but the implication seems clear between him and the cops. Personally, I think he's just in a bad mood because nobody's complimented him for his Super Saiyan cosplay. JoJo thinks that Irina will try to stop him, but she says she won't.
個人の主義や主張は勝手。許せないのは私どもの友人を公然と侮辱したこと。
I'll have the waiter bring you a Coke. Her instruction is to take him down, but be careful of the other customers. The rude guy reaches into his coat pocket for brass knuckles, something Joseph recognizes what he's doing immediately, but then points out that they're not in his coat, but his back pants pocket. The guy is naturally puzzled how Joseph would know that, and Joseph walks through his logic. That the guy has bruises on his hands from the brass knuckles that seem pretty fresh, indicating that he used them recently. In turn, he has someone else's blood on his shirt, but not the jacket, indicating he took it off during said fight.
つまりメリケンサックを指から外した時上着は着てないからズボンのポケットにしまったことは当然の結果だ。
Sherlock JoJo's. The guy is unimpressed and starts rapidly punching at JoJo, only for our hero to reveal that he quickly grabbed a coat rack and put that in the path of his punches, causing the guy to accidentally stab himself through the hand. The asshole guy's boss apologizes for the dude's behavior, saying he knows who Arena is and that he's a business associate of Speedwagon. He lets them know that Speedwagon has been killed by Strayzo in Mexico.
どこでなぜ殺されたのかも修行僧がどこへ行ったかも誰も知らない
Oh great dude, now dinner's ruined! We had this reservation for months, you know! Smokey says not to trust the guy since he's a mafioso.
スモーキー忠告はありがてえが俺はこいつの言うことを信用する
Which is why I'm going to throttle him! Start lying to me, you jerk! Actually, he punches him in the stomach exactly because you don't say something like that to Arena, truth or not. Yeah, you wait for the dessert course first. Arena begs Joseph not to get involved in this, but he says if that's where fate takes him, he has to follow.
オイラには何が何だかわからないけど
Understandably so. Like an hour ago, you were pickpocketing this guy, and now you're involved in murder monks and vampire masks. It's been a weird day. Sometime later, Smokey and JoJo discuss the wonders of push-up bras.
へえ騙されるぜ気をつけようぜ
I don't think any bra can help your boobs, JoJo. JoJo spots Strayzo outside and goes to talk with him, recognizing him despite his more youthful appearance. Strayzo plans to kill him before Joseph's abilities can truly awaken. He's right, of course. What can JoJo possibly do to stop Strayzo without the full Haman powers? Oh, right! This is America!
Well, that'll stop him.
Well, I used that clip, but even Joseph knows that it's likely not going to permanently take him down, saying that this is now war. That brings us to the Game Master. Captain N? We pick up right where we left off, Smokey asking, what the hell, man?
Huh? Oh! そうだなちっと修理代がバカ高くつくな
Good thing we have a rich oil tycoon friend. Oh, crap! JoJo notices that the bullets all have strange dents in them, then tells Smokey that he really hopes Strayzo was a normal human, since that means he's dead and he can happily go to jail for it. But of course, Strayzo just stands back up again. The air is thick with Japanese sound effects text as they face off again. Strayzo just expelling all the bullets from his body. He declares that he won't toy with JoJo like Dio did with Jonathan, shooting out some kind of weird-ass lasers from his eyes. He calls it high-pressure fluid, and those are some impressively glowy tears, if that's what that is. That seemed to hit JoJo in the head and neck, but JoJo is unaffected.
おめえはこいつなぜ穴を開けられて生きていられるんだという
I anticipated this tactic, Strayzo, so I gave myself a lobotomy and a tracheotomy already. I've got plans within plans. I'm like Batman, but with Tommy guns. No, he reveals that, having been told that this was the same way that Dio killed Jonathan, he anticipated this maneuver and set up a mirror in that spot, instead striking Strayzo from behind.
You magnificent bastard, I read your book!
He's surprised that the Haman energy isn't doing anything to Strayzo like it did to Dio, but Strayzo explains that he's an expert on Haman. The scarf he wears made of a special material that acts as a lightning rod to the energy.
我がよこの俺が波紋とかいうチャチな能力だけに頼ると思っているのか
What else can I do? Well, let's just say, Strayzo, wherever there's fun, there's always Coca-Cola. No, but his actual approach is no less ballsy. He managed to quickly plant a grenade on Strayzo earlier and pulls the pin. Strayzo tosses the grenade away, only to reveal that that grenade was attached to the pins of several other grenades on his body. And they've all been pulled. Guys, I think I might be in love with Joseph Joestar. Sadly, while it did blow his body up, the pieces quickly start reassembling themselves. Smokey asks if Joseph has any way to stop a monster like this.
たった一つだけ残った策があるぜ
The sea snail.
No, his plan is a tried and true approach. Strayzo is able to fully regenerate and grabs a photographer to use as a hostage. Their next confrontation happens on a bridge. Great, Spider-Man hasn't even been invented yet, but we're still referencing Gwen Stacy getting thrown from the bridge. He threatens that if JoJo tries to run, he'll kill her. JoJo is just like, dude, I don't even know who the hell that is. However, Strayzo reveals that this is a test of character. He wants to know what sort of man Joseph is. After all, he's weakened from his regeneration. He can't keep up the chase, but it means sacrificing this woman. Joseph tries to play it cool, suggesting she doesn't matter to him and that Strayzo himself is at fault for lowering himself to such tactics, but when he pulls out one of her teeth and tosses it to them, it shows he's serious and Joseph can't restrain himself any longer. Strayzo tosses the woman aside as JoJo climbs up to meet him. He's able to deflect one of Strayzo's laser eye beams with Haman glass, whatever the hell that is, redirecting it right into Strayzo's own head, then hit him with a direct Haman punch to finally do some real damage. Strayzo falls off the bridge, but Joseph catches him, demanding an explanation for why he tossed Speedwagon and the rest's bodies into the river. Well, he killed everyone else there, so he had no one else around to help carry the bodies to the garbage bin, which was like a mile away given how big this site was, but the river was right there, so... Strayzo explains that the blood from the bodies was being absorbed by the masks in the ruins, feeding into that humanoid figure on it, known as the Pillar Man, and he's going to awaken soon.
わかるだろう。柱の男の正体と生物進化の意味が。
Oh god, he's turning into Liquid Snake. Let him drop, JoJo! Strayzo builds up Haman inside his own body, allowing himself to be consumed by it, exclaiming that he was happy to be young again for at least a little while. We cut over to Mexico. We're at a Nazi base. You know, all those Nazi bases in Mexico. That was totally a thing, right? A woman in a toga is shaving a Nazi officer named Major von Stroheim, apologizing for cutting his face. Being a Nazi creep, he orders her to lick the wound before threatening her with the razor. Another officer comes in to report that they've actually found Speedwagon and are aware of the masks and the ruins, though not where they are. Speedwagon is alive, but recovering. After getting his shin kicked by the photographer for calling her ugly during the showdown with Strayzo, Joseph declares that they're going to Mexico to investigate the Pillar Man thing. Speaking of, at the Nazi base, it seems Speedwagon did end up spilling the beans on the location of the ruins thanks to a truth serum, and the Nazis have taken the Pillar Man back to said base, waiting to figure out how to awaken him, because Nazis are incredibly stupid. Von Stroheim plans to experiment with it, offering a bunch of Mexican prisoners freedom if they'll designate a sacrifice to drain the blood of. A young boy volunteers, and von Stroheim says he likes people like him who actually have courage, and orders all the other prisoners but him executed. You know, I'm starting to think that maybe the Nazis are kind of jerks. Joseph has arrived in the desert, driving around on a motorcycle when a mysterious man in a cloak begins following him. Elsewhere, blood starts getting fed into the man inside of the pillar to end out the episode. Thus we move on to the last we'll be looking at today, the Pillar Man. Pillar Collection ended up being a social service that more people utilize than you would think. While riding around the desert, JoJo can sense someone watching him, though he points out how unlikely it is someone would be able to follow him, right before a dude stabs him in the arm.
性のコウモリにさえ気づかれずに近づけるこの俺様の気配を。
Well, maybe the bats you know.
The guy, Donobang, is a Nazi SS commando and says he's been ordered by his army to take Joseph in for questioning about Strayzo. Unfortunately, the guy actually has some skills, so he's able to bring JoJo down for a second before JoJo uses his Haman to make a cactus explode and shove needles all over him. Interrogating the guy, JoJo learns that Speedwagon is alive.
ドイツ軍の奴らにどんな目に遭わされていることやら。
Okay, that's been an annoying thing these last two episodes. They never refer to them as the Nazis, just as the German army. Now, as you've seen, it's not like they've shied away from them being the villains, but it is weird that they never use the word, right? While Donabang is left attached to a cactus, Joseph proceeds on his way to rescue Speedwagon. At the base, after absorbing the blood of 5 prisoners, the pillar is beginning to crack. Speedwagon is of course deadly afraid of the Pillar Man escaping, but von Stroheim reassures him about how well protected the lab area is. 50-centimeter thick steel walls, flamethrowers, explosives, machine guns, and, well, we know where this song and dance is going.
That's odd. Usually the blood gets off at the second floor.
After sprinkling down the blood with water, the Pillar Man emerges.
名前が欲しいな。柱の男じゃいまいち呼びにくい。
And we shall call him Queens of the Stone Age. Actually, he's christened Sant Viento, but it's apparently supposed to be another band reference with Santana. Legal issues and all. Anyway, let's see this terrifying being in all his glory. I can see that mankind is doomed. Now, while the Nazis are amused by all this, they also suspect that Sant Viento created the masks, so they decide to experiment on him, releasing another prisoner who they've put one of the masks on. The vampire they unleash tries to bite Sant Viento, But it seems the Pillar Man has weird powers. At first I thought he could just phase through solid objects, but instead he seems to split the vampire open and absorb him into his body. He even grows slightly with the added body mass. But what's more, he absorbs the mind of the prisoner, so he knows who von Stroheim is now. Meanwhile, JoJo arrives at the Nazi base and has to figure out a way to sneak inside. Lest we be reminded how friggin' awful the Nazis are, the guards outside the base grope at some women who want to enter the area, and JoJo sees his opportunity. You know, when I commented on Blue Sky how much I was loving Joseph, a lot of people compared his antics to those of the Looney Tunes. So naturally, JoJo takes the Bugs Bunny approach to infiltration. Shockingly, this does not fool them, but their sexism, saying that no woman would have muscles like his, pisses him off, and he uses Haman to launch the corks from the tequila bottles out. Yeah, did you think I was kidding with all the Coke jokes? Launching the tops of bottles off is apparently his signature move. Although I don't think there are any tequila jingles as good as the Coke ones. He steals a uniform and we cut back inside, where somehow Sanfiento has disappeared from the lab chamber. Reviewing the camera footage, Sanfiento was somehow able to twist his entire body in such a way that he was able to squeeze through the thin ventilation ducts. Eugene Toombs in his first acting role. He quickly emerges from the vents and goes inside of a Nazi, absorbing him from the inside out. Von Stroheim orders the soldiers to shoot him, but instead he just absorbs the bullets and then shoots them back at them. Joseph reveals himself and rips out some of von Stroheim's hair, charging it with Haman to form some kind of force field. First episode sponsored by Coca-Cola, this one sponsored by Pantene Pro V. And so our episode ends with Sanfiento fascinated by the hair strands, and Joseph being all, "Oh, this is weird, isn't it?" These episodes are pure delight. I don't feel like I can really add much beyond what I've already said before concerning the previous JoJo reviews. Aside from the fact that what a fine first impression we get for our new protagonist. A little brash and prone to anger perhaps, but not unthinking. Making plans, anticipating his opponents, and trying to defuse a situation when he can. But when he fails, more than ready to throw down and kick ass. The overall plot is fun in that with the previous protagonist and antagonist gone, we can instead do some lore dives with the time jump, getting to learn some backstory on the Stone Mask, which was more of a MacGuffin during the Phantom Blood arc. Speedwagon continues his essential role of just sitting there commenting on the action, but at least he gets the plot moving by his invitation to Strayzo to destroy the masks. Plus, I appreciate the forward thinking in that regard. No, I don't care about archaeology or anything. These things are dangerous. I saw what they did, and I want to be sure they are blown straight to hell. Good stuff, and if I get Patreon for more episodes, I'll be delighted to cover them. Next time, though, the Patreon-sponsored extravaganza brings us a much more put-upon main character to follow, as we get to travel to Scotland with Charlie Brown.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Hello, my friends. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon, buy merch from the store envy link in the description, or check out the t-shirts available from Teespring. Thanks for watching.